To welcome students to the next session of refresher course in biomedical content writing. And in this session, we are going to learn about how to give structure to your content, because while writing, it's never like you open a page and start writing. First, you have to develop a kind of a structure which you are going to fill and complete your writing. And because it's just like you are making a house, and first you need to know or design the structure, and then you start putting on the walls, and then you start using your paragraphs, sentences, and the words to convey your message. So this session will deal with the architecture model for the writers, biomedical writers. And here we are going to introduce you to 7 architectural models which are used in biomedical writings by the writers. So these models will help you out in catering or in helping out to design your documents or to design your writing based on the reader's requirement and the purpose of that document or your writing. Based on that, you are going to select the various models, and those models are going to make your document look more professional and more easier to understand and more easy to mm, uh, give support the reader in terms of getting the maximum output out of your writing. So structuring a written work is like building a house. Without the structure, content is just like a raw material. Whatever you are writing, it is just a raw material. And if that raw material is not put in a right format or in a right structure, that raw material is not going to give you any kind of a output or the understanding, or that raw material is of no use. It is just like you have thrown the raw material, and you are not able to form the complete message. Just like your home, if everything is lying without any structure, your the drawing room material is lying in your bedroom, and bedroom material is lying in your kitchen, and kitchen material is lying in your washroom. So it is a kind of a mess. Similarly, when you write some document, it's very important that whatever the content is, it should fall into a category or into a structure that makes sense for the reader. And every reader has a different kind of a requirement. Because of that, we need to use the various structures. And if we consider, if you are writing for a website, if you're writing for a education material, if you're writing for the newspaper, if you're writing for the magazine or for some other platform like blogs, so different kind of a writing involves different kind of structures. And in this session, we are going to introduce you to 7 structures under which most of your documents in biomedical sciences or the life sciences we are going to cover in these 7 structures. And the important thing is that maybe you are using these structures. The important thing is not that you are knowing. The important thing is that you are aware when you have to use which structure. So as a writer, you don't have to go haphazardly that you're using with your own assumptions, you start using any of the models. You should first consider who are my audience, what is the purpose of my document, who is going to read that, and what the purpose is it's going to solve. So based on that, if you decide which structure is to be used, that will make your writing more engaging and more clear for the reader. So let's move on. When you don't have a structure, you end up having no clear picture of what is written and for what purpose. As I told you that written content is just like a raw material. If it is lying in front of you, but it has no, it does not convey any particular picture or any particular purpose if you don't give the structure to your document. So same thing in biomedical sciences or the life sciences. And it is not just like applied to only life sciences or biomedical sciences. It is applied to any industry. But here, because the course is dealing with the biomedical sciences, so that is why we are talking only in context of the biomedical subjects. So there are 7 useful models of writing architecture which are used in biomedical or life sciences, and which are to be utilized or which are used by content writers. And they are, every model which is taught in this session is specific for the purpose. Means every model has a utilization. It's not like you can convert any content into any particular model. It is always based upon what the purpose of your document is. Based on that, you are going to select the useful model or the structure of your writing. And second is that is used in various different media platforms. Some model is used for the newspaper. Some model is used for the manuscript writing for the research purpose. Some model is used for the articles. In some used for the marketing material for the health sciences or the biomedical sciences. And it is used by different industries and businesses. These all the models which we are talking here, they are used in all the industries, different industries. But here we are talking about their application mainly in terms of when you are using it for the health or the medical industry. So fourth point is that it is required to be understood to write as per the model needs. And once you select the model and once you start writing for a particular purpose on the for the particular platform, you have to understand that what is what should be the what kind of a words or what kind of a sentences, what kind of a paragraphs I have to use based on the model, based on the audience, based on the purpose, and based on what actually I want to achieve through that writing. Based on that, you then decide about the various elements of writing which you are going to include in every model. So just see to this list of 7 architecture models which are used in biomedical writing. First is the issue discussion action model. Second is the narrative model. Third is the telescoping model. Fourth is the exposition model. Fifth is instruction model. Then we have question and answer model. And last one is the mosaic model. Just to give you a glimpse, issue discussion action, they are used. The number 1 model is used mostly for the small documents and the small communications, like emails and the small meetings, those kinds of things. We will go in detail one by one, but just in the time being, I'm just giving you a brief about every model. Narrative model is mostly used when you want to write a kind of an essay, or you want to write a kind of a long text, and it is mostly used when you are writing for the academic purposes. Third one is the one of the most important ones, which is used by the biomedical writers, and that is a telescoping model. And that is used when you are dealing with the news stories, when you want to cover certain media stories for your research, or some healthcare stories, something about the surgery, something about the treatment in the newspaper or the magazine. In that case, we use the telescoping model. How that works and how you have to design or how you have to develop the content for that, that we are going to discuss further in this section. Then comes the exposition model, which is mostly used in the research purposes, where we categorize the content in the form of a manuscript, where we give the introduction and methodology and results, and then we discuss about the result, and finally we give the conclusion. Fifth one is the instruction model, where you want to teach or you want to discuss the things with your audience, and you want the people or the reader to follow certain instruction. Now those readers could be your patients when you develop the patient education material, or you want your nurses or your healthcare staff to follow certain instruction, or in your laboratory you want everybody to follow certain procedure. For that purpose, the instruction model comes into picture. Then comes the question and answer model. Certain kind of a text is there where what you want to convey is not interrelated, and anything in between can come. Any new question or any new piece of information can come, where you have to answer everything. Like you must have seen in the frequently asked questions, they are designed. Why? Because everything cannot be made in the form of because your content is not linear, and any kind of a question from outside can intervene into your current subject. So in that case, we use the question answer model. Then comes the mosaic model, which is used mostly for the marketing purpose, where you design and develop the marketing material. For example, you talk about the brochure, or you talk about the teaching material. Those kind of things are considered in mosaic model. So these are the 7 models. Now we know the brief about every model, and then now we will discuss one by one each model, and we will understand how and why and when these models work, and how they are going to help you out in making your content best suitable for your readers. First is issue, discussion, and action model. This consists of, as I told you, this consists of three sections. When you put your content in this model, there are three sections. One is issue, second one is you are discussing that issue, and then finally you are suggesting the action. Now, this is one of the easiest model. It is used because it is used in small communications, including your email writing as well. Then comes the define, discuss, and suggest action. First, you define the issue, then you discuss the issue, and then finally you suggest the action to be taken on that issue, which makes your overall communication more clear and more comprehensible for your readers. Then comes, it is used, as I told you, it is used for the short documents, emails, memos of maximum 1 page. Then when something to be responded urgently and immediately. Suppose you have to respond to something in a short way, in a short form, and you have to do it urgently or immediately. At that point, you don't have to use any other model or any other kind of a thing. You just use this. You can use this model of issue, discussion, and then action, and you will be able to convey your message more easily and in a more simple way to make the reader feel comfortable with what you are going to say. Then second model is about the narrative model. Now, narrative model is when you write a report or the comprehensive article about your topic, maybe in the clinical sciences, maybe in the life sciences, or any kind of a biomedical research. You want to write a report. Now, it is used in research projects mainly, and it consists of the scientific methods, because narrative model is where you use most of the scientific tests, and you use the terms and the jargon used in the medical science or the biomedical science. Then you add those things and you support that content with the flowcharts and the tables to explain your narrative. But this model has a kind of a drawback, because this is not for the normal audience or the common man, and because it's going to be very time consuming for the reader. And the major drawback is it is not reader friendly, because not everybody can read the research papers, not everybody can understand the methodology, not everybody can comprehend what the terminology is going to be used, or what the terminology, why you are using that particular method. Nobody is aware of that. So this model is more of the scientific method, and it is of chief interest when you are going to show the result and the conclusion, and because the readers are more interested in your results and the conclusion. And other thing is that in this model, the important thing is that methodology which you are explaining should be understandable by the readers and should be feasible to be repeated by the readers. That is one of the important point to be considered. But otherwise, when you are dealing with the other kind of a content, if you are writing for the other platforms, maybe for media, for newspaper, for any other place apart from the journals, medical journals, this model won't work in that. Now, third one is the telescopic model. Telescopic model is one of the most important and highly used in mainstream media. So you need to understand that this model is not easy to adopt, because it needs a lot of thought process to make your content suitable for all the kind of audience which are available. This is not for just the one audience you are talking about. This model is adaptable and can be used for all kind of audience available as a reader. Telescopic model is used by newspapers, magazines, and all the main media platforms. It is used in creating stories, covering news stories, and writing about the subject which is currently in news. And it moves from most important to the least important information. And this approach is to balance the interest of diverse readers. Telescopic model is used when you want to write for the audience who have just 5 minutes to read your story, and those who have even half an hour or 1 hour to read your story. Both the audience should get the gist in their own allotted time for reading. If you see the newspaper stories, you will find that most of the people, they just go through the newspaper, they read the main headlines, then they read the first two paragraphs, and you can get the entire story of what is covered in the news. That is the beauty of the newspaper story. And once you move on further reading about the news story, you will find that as you go down in the news, you will see that information is less and less important. So the most important information lies at the mm, top of your writing, and that is where the telescopic model is used. It enhances the efficiency and interest of your readers to understand the story. So as I told that this is a very reader friendly model, and the focus is that the reader should get what he wants within a time which he wants to give to your writing, rather than just going through the entire story which is used in your narrative and the other models. Now, this is the model described in short as a diagram. You can see at the top, once you start the story, you put the key information, which is a summary, conclusion, and recommendations. If you see in the newspaper, you will find that who has done what and when and why and how. All these 5-6 questions are covered in the first 2 to 4 sentences or the first paragraph of your newspaper story. And once you come down, then the further evaluation of primary analysis, evidence, along with the most important context, that comes into play. And once you go down and down in the newspaper story, you will find detailed information, which outlines the topic's full history, process, research, findings, mainly descriptive details, very small details, which are of rare relevance to the entire story, which is a very little relevance. So even if you read the first paragraph of the news story, you'll find the entire story understood by just reading the few sentences. That's the beauty of the telescopic model. When you write for the newspaper, this model consists of what all the whys, all the W's questions, and how question in the very first part of the story. Why, what happened, when it happened, who has done, why it has happened, where it has happened, and how it has been done. All these six questions are answered in the very initial stage of your, or very initial paragraph of your writing. After that, you keep on adding the family history of the victim or the family history of the main subject. Then you must have read even in newspaper, if some accident happens, first they tell that where and why and which type, what kind of an accident happened. Then they tell the name of the person, where he lives. Then he comes and they tell about the story or about the family of the person who has undergone the accident. The reason is that in the first paragraph, they want to explain to the reader that what exactly has happened and why what the story actually the core message of the story is. So you don't have to go through the entire story, and you can get the main crux within just 5 minutes or reading first paragraph of the story. So this is all about the telescopic model, but you must understand and must use this kind of a model when you are writing for the newspapers or the magazines. And this will help you. If you keep this model in mind, it will be helpful for you to what to include and what to be, which is the least important information and what is the most important information. You can categorize that, and then you can design your article to suit the various media platforms like magazines and the newspapers. Now, this model empowers the readers to choose how much time or how much they want to read. You don't have to, if you have used this model, the reader does not have to go through the entire content or the entire article. They can just read the first paragraph and they can know what exactly happened in your story. The most reader friendly model, and it is used in intellectual media for best stories. It caters to all sort of readers, most busy readers and the least busy readers. If somebody wants to, because you can easily see that newspaper people just read the newspaper in 10 minutes also, and there are people who take the entire day to churn out the entire newspaper. So but the main story you can just get within 10 minutes also. So that is the beauty of telescopic model for the benefit of readers. And what is most required is kept first. The most important information, the core message of the story is always kept in the initial part of your writing. And the information is then sequenced in descending order. First, the most important, then the less important, then the lesser important, then finally the least important information comes when you write using telescopic model in your writing. Now, the major drawback of this model is it cannot be used for complex and the long content like articles and the reports, because in long articles, it is very difficult to categorize the information from most important to least important. And it is only used when the story need to be expressed in shortest possible way. You cannot express the 5-page article in the form of a telescopic model. So you must have seen that that all the newspaper stories or the magazine stories, they are almost written not more than half page or not more than 500 words. So in that case only you can use this telescopic model, not for the longer documents. Now, fourth one is the exposition model. Exposition model is used for the longer documents. When your document goes to 3-page, 4-page, 5-page, or 10 pages, you use this particular model. And it is used for structuring an essay or a scientific commentary. And it is used with the multiple themes. For example, you are writing about the diabetes, and you want to explain each and every type of diabetes, youngsters diabetes, gestational diabetes, and neonatal diabetes. All those you can take on as a separate themes, and then you put your thoughts in the form of this model. And this model is learned in schools and the colleges and used mostly for the academic purpose. And the professional utility is limited and too rare. Why this model is introduced? So that you avoid, while writing content for the professional purpose, you must avoid this particular model, because this is mostly used in dealing with the academic content, dealing with the college students, or when you want your writing to be checked by your school teachers or your instructors, and they are going to evaluate you. The other thing is that this model is used when the reader is looking for how much you know what he wants you to know. As I told that in schools, you write to tell that you know, and your teacher evaluates because they want to know whether you know what they want you to know or you don't know what they want you to know. So they evaluate you. So this model is more of evaluating the writer rather than getting some benefit out of your writing. So in this entire document is important to be read by reader to understand, and not just conclusion can give idea about what is done and how. So this entire document is to be written well defined, because reader is not going to churn your document. They are going to read your entire document because they have to evaluate your writing. So this is used in academic writing. This is used rarely in out of academia context by biomedical writing. So don't use this for your professional needs. Never use this model to rewrite your articles and to draft your content or the report for your professional purposes, because this model then fails to do the job which it is intended to do. Now, fifth one is the instruction model. Instruction model is one of the key areas where the health sciences requires, and because in health sciences it is more of you need to educate every stakeholder that is involved in your biomedical or the life sciences journey, whether you talk about your staff, nurses, or you talk about your lab technicians, or you talk about your researchers, you talk about the patients or your research subjects. All have to be given instructions. You have to follow certain protocols, you have to follow certain procedures, which are the standard operating procedures. For writing those, you have to use this instruction model. Now it is used for the clinical procedures. Suppose you want to explain something, you want to explain that how the particular drug is manufactured, or then you write the instructions sentence by sentence, and you enumerate number one, first step one, step two, step three. That is how you design the instruction model. Then comes you use it for the medical administrative process writing, that how the patient is going to be discharged. For that purpose, you have a clear guideline, and you have a procedure that first this form is to be filled, then this particular signature has to be taken, uh, then the payment should be made, and then the claim should be done, then the discharge summary should be processed. Whatever is that process, that needs to be written using this model. And it is used for standard operating procedures which are used in any healthcare or the medical services providing organization. And the other thing is important in this particular model is that it is always done or expressed in the sequence, because whatever you are going to write, you are going to follow a certain sequence, because every process has to be done in a methodical and a sequential way. So first you're going to do step A, then step B, then step C. You cannot jump from step A to step C. So that has to be checked when using your instructional model. And the other important thing is, because those instructions are going to be used and read by all the nurses or all the people who are involved or all the people who are intended for those instructions. So you have to use the small words, means very common words which are understandable by any reader. The other thing is the short sentences, because once you are reading those instructions, you have to carry out those instructions. So sentences must be small or the short, because people are not going to check and read those sentences every time they are going to follow your instructions. Short sentences means they should learn your sentences and they should follow the instructions immediately once they see those instructions. And 1 or 2 line paragraphs should be there. That these are the 3 things key to the instruction model. Very small words, short sentences, and 1 to 2 line paragraphs, not more than that. And all these are given in the sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, and this sequence is in the chronology. And this is the 6-step process, and sequence to be followed is important for any writer. Chronology of what is done. Chronology means first write what is done, then write what is done, then after that what is done. So you have to follow the entire chronology to describe any instruction related to the clinical procedures, operating procedures, processes, admin processes, anything that you want to instruct to your reader. You can easily see this kind of a model nowadays. In the COVID, you must have seen that the instructions are given how to wash the hands, and you can see that very in 6th step or the 7th step they explain that first you take the soap, then for 30 seconds uh, just put your hand in the tap for to wash your hands, and then after that you rub your hands against each other, then between the fingers. All those instructions are given in a very in the instructional manner, and step by step you have to follow those, and that is how this instruction model works for medical writing or the biomedical content. Now just see to this diagram, and you can see that first you write the purpose of your instructions, then context, what you really want from those instructions, that should be clear. And then you put the steps, the first action, then the next action, then the final phase or the final action. And finally on completion, what the end result of your instructions should be. After reading those instructions, what you expect from the reader, that must be defined in your writing in this, when you are putting the instructions in this particular model. This is used in the hospitals. This is used in the labs. The instructions given to the people who are entering the lab, they tell that what kind of how they have to enter and what they have to do, what they should not do, do's and don'ts. All those are instructions, and you must have seen in do's and don'ts, very small words are used, small sentences are used, and even 1 to 2 lines paragraph is there, even 1 line paragraph is there. So that you can see that how the instruction model work when you talk about, or when you want to inform any of your reader group about the what you want or what you expect from them to do after reading your instructions. Then sixth model is about the question and answer model. Now, question and answer model, why you choose? You must have seen in on websites also. Uh, Usually you check out the FAQs, which we call frequently asked questions. Now, why they don't write an article on that? Why they make the question and answer model? The reason is that sometimes your subject is not in the linear fashion. You cannot describe in a single paragraph what is going to happen, and you don't know how the patient or how the staff or how the reader is going to ask you about the subject. Suppose you are you have a clinic where you treat the cancer patient, and now the patient is patient want to ask, I am on dieting from last 5 weeks or last 2 days, shall I come for this particular test? So now this is the question which is not, you cannot write in the entire essay of your cancer treatment. So what you do, you take up the pieces which people frequently ask about the context or the service that you provide, and you design the question and answer based on that. And those questions and answers, you make a standardized answer for those questions, and then you put it on your website or in your brochure, and that works well. When people come, they should know what you already know that what is the expected question, and you can write the standardized answer. People can read that and get benefited and then prepare themselves accordingly. But this model is used for this model is used when your subject has limited variability. It does not mean that question answer does not mean that you can prepare thousands or hundreds of questions. It should vary not more than 15 to 20 questions. And after that, if it goes more elaborate, then you should avoid this, because then you cannot write everything in your question answer. Then you have to go and write the other model, use the other model and write more details about your subject so that people can understand it better. Only use it when you have only 15, 20 or max 25 questions, which covers every aspect of your services to be given in the form of FAQs. Now, this is the seventh model, and this is the MOSAIC model, and this is again important in terms of making your professional documents. Professional documents means those who are outside, which are outside your academic area. And MOSAIC model is when you have information in groups. You don't have the linear information. You want to tell something from one part and something from the other part, and those information parts are in different groups, and that those groups you want to share with the audience so that they know the important aspect of that particular part of your content, and there is no linear flow is there from one section to another. And the example of this is the web page and the brochures or the catalogs. And structure is used in this marketing material and the promotional collaterals. Collateral means you use the danglers, or you use the brochures, you use the fancy pamphlets or some kind of an instruction material or the educational material. You must have seen the hospitals, the small brochures like or the leaflets are there on which you find the information about the diabetes, about the cancer, about the pregnancy. You can see that how the information is given, that you need just these 4 particular things. Do you have these 4 symptoms? Have you ever taken these 4 drugs? This is the one drug. Have you gone for the physiotherapy? Those kind of information which are in blocks are given in the form of a catalogs or the brochures, and that model is known as the MOSAIC. And this is the most diverse and the creativity based writing model, because people do write the content for the brochures, they do write for the web page. And although web page writing is another a different course which we may be introducing separately, but in general, this particular model is used when you write for the websites or when you write the marketing material for the medical technology, for your drugs, for your particular treatment or kind of a medical procedures or anything related to the life science or the biomedical science. Now, biomedical writers use this particular model when they create the product brochures, when they want to create some clinical educational material for the doctors, nurses, or other clinical or healthcare staff. Then we have the patient education material when you want to create something for the patients, which patient should read and then follow the instruction, and then they can take care of themselves better. Then marketing of the healthcare services. You want to market your services and you want to promote some of the treatment, and then you can develop the teaching material for the healthcare staff using this model. You can just see this MOSAIC model is this kind of a model which you see that I have shown here two brochures, and these are the brochures created for the doctors. You can see the contact us part, then you have about us, then the facilities for you, then you have the treatments, what our patient says, and what are the facilities available. These kind of things, which are the different group of information, are used in this MOSAIC model. And this kind of a material is used for promotional purposes when writing for the biomedical sciences or the life sciences or for the medical institutions. So I think these 7 models, if you clearly understood and you know the purpose, then once you select the model and then you start writing, you can make your content more better, and then you will be able to find out the correct vocabulary, correct sentences, and better paragraphing for your writing using these models. Now, adding these 7 models in your writing toolbox will definitely accelerate the planning of your document. See, all these things are more of your planning for your document. Once you have that plan, just like when you make a house, if you have a plan that how many rooms you are going to create, how many kitchens are there, how many washrooms you want, all that things, if you are clear with, then you can easily identify that which kind of a brick, which kind of a cement or anything you want to make the best house out of it. So these 7 models just act like your architecture, and once you know the architecture, then you start making your writing accordingly to fit into these models based on the reader assessment, based on the content assessment. As you talked, for different readers, if you're writing for the patient, you're not going to use the clinical language, but if you're talking to clinicians, you're not going to use the layman's language. This is a kind of a difference you can easily identify using any of these models, which we have just learned in this particular session. And I think this all will help you in finding out the making your content writing job easier, being a content writer for biomedical sciences or the life sciences. Now, this is the last, at the last, I would like to say that the structural checklist in biomedical writing. Now, here I have shared with you 6 questions. If you use these 6 questions, it will be easier for you to find out which model. Suppose you have written the entire content, you have written 1,000 words, and now you want to find out which model shall I put these words into, and how should I categorize the information to make it a best usable piece of writing and to get it published or to get it used for the intended purpose. These are the 6 questions. First is, can you group some content together? Just look at your content and find out, is there any grouping found you can do in your content? Grouping means, suppose you have jotted down 3 reasons why the particular disease happens. Now those 3 reasons, can you categorize and put them into one section? And now look at how many definitions you have. Can you group all the definitions together? Can you group some kind of findings together? Can you group the diagnostic tests together? This is how you categorize and group your information into various paragraphs. Now, would you merge some areas within these groups? Is there any possibility that you can merge the 2 areas together within these groups? to form a one group. Now, what are the main message in each group? You have to find out if you have created different paragraphs, what is the main message out of that? Can you put that one main message as a top or the subheading of that particular group? Then which groups are the more important? Which is the most important information? What you want to say to the audience or the reader? Can you identify that, and then accordingly you prioritize or give the place in your writing? Then what is the logic or the connection between the groups? If you are talking in the first paragraph, you're talking about the definition of diabetes, and in the next section you're talking about the drugs, although you actually want to educate the patient on the lifestyle, but you are writing about the drugs, there is no point. So after giving the definition, you must include what the 5 lifestyle points, or the what are the 5 things a patient can do to improve his or her diabetic condition, or to take care of themselves at home. So this is how you are going to prioritize what information you want to give first and which information you want to give last to the reader. Then what structural model could you use to link these groups? Once you have categorized and sorted out the information, then you have to find out that which structural model is important for you. Whether you are going to make it a small story using the telescopic model, or you are going to make a kind of a teaching material or the learning material or the educational material in the form of a mosaic model, or you want to make it in the form of a narrative model to make a small story out of it, or you want to use some other model, maybe issue, discussion, and action model, which was the first model we talked about. Issue is that patient is not able to take care of themselves during diabetes. Then you discuss about that, and then you've got the action. What are the 5 things patient can take care, diabetic patient can take care at home? So you can use the IDA model, and this is all happens because once you categorize, once you sort out, once you group the information, it becomes easier as a content writer for you to find out which model suits the best for your writing. So remember these 6 questions, put it in your writing guidelines, and keep these questions handy to you when you're writing the content for any biomedical or life sciences subject, and then apply the suitable model, and then you'll find that it becomes very easy for you to design and write the document that perfectly suits the need of your reader. With this, I would like to complete this session, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Any kind of a questions, you can approach us, or you can send the questions to us, and we'll be happy to answer those. And we'll see you again in the next session, where we will discuss more tools and more ideas that how you can make your biomedical content or the medical content writing better and more effective for your readers. Thank you with this. Thank you so much. See you in the next session.